like you name it, I tried it. But I researched, read so much from the Mayo Clinic and Harvard Clinic and my doctors and everything else. And I started putting together, wow, these things can work, or here's research of what you could do with this, and I thought, this has to be shared. This diagnosis, this wasn't my, this wasn't like a death sentence. This was actually my gift. And that's what I finally realized at age 40, that I was like, oh my gosh, I have the ability to share this, to enlighten other people, to give people the tools to live, to not be afraid. If you're diagnosed with something, and again, I work with people that are like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and MS and ALS and all the arthritis and the diabetes. And it's like, when you think about what their doctors tell them and what the reality is of what they should be doing, they're two different things. And
100%.
you go through a grieving process. You had said something about
Sure.
grieving before.
Who
I
am I
went through all the
now?
things. Yeah. It's I got diagnosed and I'm like, oh my gosh, my old life is never going to be like, that was who I was. I almost like think about, like, people who have kids, like you're not alone on this planet anymore. You got someone else. It's not just a handbag. It's like a lot more than that. So that was kind of the thing of like, you've got to grieve and go through the stages of, I'm angry, I didn't deserve this. And to acceptance of,
Acceptance. You have to
this is
have
my gift,
acceptance for a little
right?
bit.
Like, this is my
Yeah.
gift. And now I'm going to give it away. Everything I've learned, all the different tactics and communication and the mindset. And that, when I was 40, that's really when um, things took off. I started writing courses for different medical fitness associations and finding my niche in this chronic disease area that didn't really exist, because you had doctors and physical therapists, and then you had like personal trainers. And if you are someone who, is diagnosed, you may have PT, but many times insurance runs out, right? And you're still need to do something, or you get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and the doctor's like, you need to work out. And you're like, all right, well, what does that mean? Like, maybe they've never done anything. And if you go to just a generic trainer, sometimes bench pressing and squatting and is not exactly what they need according to their condition. So that's kind of where I stepped in and said, we need to make, education about training these people more available to everyone. And don't be afraid. Someone's has autism, and, they're have Down syndrome or Alzheimer's. Embrace it. They need you. This is the demographic that needs you more than ever. And that's kind of a long story, I guess, of how, when I was 40, that's
I love it
how I
so
know who I
much.
am.
And so my one of my favorites, Joel Osteen, always says your trouble is your transportation.
Mhm.
And I always see it in my own life. I see it in yours because right now I can look at your life and see how from that you are who you are right now and you're helping who you're helping. And you're, and Idea World 2023 Instructor of the Year. And I will say my all is lost moment is when I had all of my injuries. Well, I've had more than one all is lost moment, but all of my injuries where I, completely ripped my hamstring, had to have it reattached from the groin with bone fragments, and then my
Oh, ooh.
it's awful. Groin, I ripped my other hamstring, and then I ripped my groin from the pelvis with bone fragments. And I pretty much was like, okay, I'm listening, God. What is it that I need to know and learn? Stop, look, and listen. I surrender. But I will just say that, that you wonder, who are you now? Oh my gosh, my gym came out during that time when I was limping around and on a pink scooter. My mission came during that time. My podcast, my speaking, all of the things. And now I can say I am the Fitness Universe reigning champion 2023, uh, even though all that happened to me. And I just worked around it and found a new way to show up. It wasn't the same way I thought that I needed to show up to do something like that. Before, I thought I had to kill myself. I had to, be a certain way. I had to, I took a lot of elements out of my training and my routine. And I just think it's realizing and recognizing, first of all, you are more than your body. You're
Right.
so much more. And what is the gift in your circumstance? And how can you move forward? If it's differently, then move differently. And you have to leave that person you were, you have to let go and be like, okay, what's the new me going to be like? I can't look back. I don't want to sink back. I don't want to sink down further. I got to get up and I got to get moving forward. Right.
Mm-hmm. I always think of, you're a podcaster, I'm a podcaster. And when I started podcasting, I think it's 6.5 years ago now, that the podcasting was just kind of just starting to take off. You had your Joe Rogan and you were like, you podcast? Like what's and I really didn't even listen to podcasts. I knew that that was the next big thing. And I'm like, that's cool. Well, if no one's going to offer me my own talk show, then hey, I bet I could help people and feature them and give other people a voice through this. And what's interesting is I always think, going forward, I talk to Brian, my podcast co-host, and I always say to him, I'm like, we've been podcasting for 6.5 years. We don't even know what the next thing is, what we're going to be doing. We don't even know. Like, is it going to be holograms come up to people's houses? Like, because podcasting didn't exist how many years ago, right?
Right.
So but we know that we're moving forward. We know that whatever it is that we're doing is in here. We're giving people a voice. We're giving people unbiased information about fill in the blank. And when that next thing comes along, we're going to be ready because we've been practicing. So it won't be as scary. And,
Right.
that's that whole idea.
Yeah, because you develop your confidence muscle. At least I found, because I always waited a year for each thing that I wanted to do, thinking about it. And so what I found though is each time you did something scary that you didn't
Mm-hmm.
know you could do and you did it, then you were ready for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And all of a sudden you're like, I was dreaming too small, way too small. And so I think uh, just doing that split-second courage, like your book. And I want to ask you this because this may be going down in the valley for a second, but we'll come back out on the other side. When you had your real big moment in the book of split-second courage, where you even had on the Wonder Woman, you know, underwear, and
Yes.
you really came in that moment from not standing up to standing up. I want you to just go through that moment with everyone and kind of tell them where you were at.
So I don't want I don't want people to think that you have to go through a traumatic event. That's number one. You don't have to go through some disease or someone dies suddenly, or you don't have to have that. For me, that's what I needed, apparently. And what you're referring to at this point is I had lost my dad very kind of unexpected. My father passes away, and I am the youngest of three girls. And I grew up in a family where I was much younger than my sisters. So one is 13 years older and the other is 9. Um,
everyone was like, oh, you're a mistake. And my mother always said I was a gift from God. There we go. So needless to say, I never was really given a voice. And growing up, I had a couple things happen to me that I never spoke about. And as I got older, I started realizing that some things that happened to me as a child were not my fault. And there wasn't, there wasn't shame in what had happened to me.
Mhm.
And there was, I just had a lot of moments in my life where I thought maybe it's me, maybe I did something wrong, or maybe I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, and I'm not, whatever it was, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not. And you just kind of shove them down. You just kind of put them in your trunk, right? And at first, your trunk's kind of empty. But over the years, the more you don't speak, the more you don't speak up for yourself, the more you don't say something when you don't believe something is right, the more that gets jammed into that trunk. And over the years, not dealing with my feelings, I developed depression. I developed eating disorders. I, occasionally would, drink too much and I just kind of kept it to myself.
Yeah.
And we all know that eventually you can't keep things to yourself because it's going to make you crazy. So fast forward, there was, this time that my dad passed away, he was always one of my biggest fans, like always, was at every sports event and was just, kind of you got this. And my mother was kind of the more stern person. And when he passed away, it really hit me. Like my biggest cheerleader is gone. And to sit back, and he would always be the person that kind of would stand up for me and allow me to have a voice. When he was gone, I was like, whoa, who am I? Where am I? What? So there was a point where he was always, cracking jokes and adding a lot of levity. And we were actually sitting down at a table and picking out his casket, which is traumatizing for many people. All right. Not something I love to. So we're sitting down at the funeral home, and my sisters, my mom, myself, funeral director, and I cracked like a little joke because that's what my dad always did. And and I had said, this is a really tough time. I said, thank goodness I've got my Wonder Woman underwear on today. And B, I kind of thought it was, kind of breaking the ice because it was very heavy. And and I just remember my mother just screaming at me, like, who do you think you are? And of course, honestly, everyone was, dealing with their grief in their own way, which I understand. But at that moment, it was like the last thing that I wanted was to be told, don't speak. We don't want to hear your voice. And that was like I almost had this moment of like, no, nope, this is not the way it's going to be. And I didn't yell, I didn't respond, I didn't flip a table, I didn't do anything. But there was something that went off in my head that thought to myself, no, nope. If you feel a certain way, you need to speak up for yourself, because otherwise you are going to be walked on, you are going to be nothing, you are going to be unhappy for the rest of your life if you don't choose to act. And like, I have to say that the whole idea of split second courage is to act. You act and then you figure it out, knowing that you have the experience and the knowledge and the education and maybe the morals and ethics to know that that decision you made, you can handle the repercussions. And what's funny is that I do a lot of, people say, crazy Christine. I do a lot of things that sometimes other people think are crazy. That's fine. But if I do big races or fundraisers or say I'm going to do something, I will make a decision I'm going to do it, and then I will figure it out. Just like when I quit my teaching job, you figure it out.
That's right.
Because I knew that I had the education and the degrees and the experience and the connections and the networking. And I knew that there were great people that I could lean on. It wasn't going to be easy. Don't get me wrong. Not
Right,
easy,
right.
but you're going to figure it out. And it's having that courage to act.
So good. And I think we can all have moments where our backs are up against the wall. And there's just something within you, like you said, it just snapped. It's that moment where you said, no,
Now,
this is not the way it's going to be. And I know for me, it was when I left my ex-husband who was physically abusive, and there just came that moment, instead of cowering in fear, I don't know, I just stood up in faith, and I was like, I don't care what I got to do. I'm not living like this, and my children are not living like this. And it's just that moment where you rise to the occasion and you face your giant of fear, whatever it is. And I think that is a life altering moment. And it's where you pulled your Wonder Woman panties up. And we can all do this in our lives. And so, uh,
I
gosh,
think too that I have to say that I had a good friend of mine give me those Wonder Woman underwear. Okay. Not like in a weird way, but like she saw them somewhere and was like, oh my gosh, Christine needs these. And, the backstory to that is when I gotten sick, I made a bucket list of things that I never thought that I'd be able to do. And I started doing them. And that's when I got into running and racing and all these things that I was like, I have no business doing any of this. I was never a runner or swimmer or anything. I played volleyball. I jumped, I hit balls. Okay. But she had given these to me, and it was like kind of a thing, like, oh, you're like a Wonder Woman. You can, and I actually have a tattoo of Wonder Woman's symbol on the back of my neck, because when I started getting into this, I started running, and this is way before my dad passed away, was I started doing things and giving back to charities. And I would run all these races to kind of prove to other people, you can have diseases and still do things, or do the best you can. And so the
yeah.
Wonder Woman symbol on my back, on my neck, was, if you see this symbol, keep going. Like follow me. I will help you, motivate you, help inspire you to keep going. And that's kind of where that happens. So when, this whole idea of, oh, why, like, yelling at me about this Wonder Woman underwear or whatever, that I made this comment, I just felt like it was like rocking my being of, no, like, Wonder Woman, like, stand up, inspire, motivate, like, you, and that's part of it. That I think that was the snap of, what do you mean? Like, this is empowering. This is like a positive thing. Like, so I think that's seeing that, and going back to when we first started, seeing things as gifts and being able to give it away and know that that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I love this. I love this so much. Tell me, when you received Ideal World Fitness Pro of the Year, what did that feel like?
Oh my gosh. It was awesome. It was amazing. I'll own it. I'll receive that. It was amazing, because for someone like me who has not been full-time in the fitness world, yes, have I been in athletics? Have I traveled? Have I, been personal training, and, have fitness classes, and I just loved fitness, but it was
Right.
always a part-time thing, because I was told that fitness was not a full-time career. It was like a hobby. So I got every single certification under the sun because it was so fun and taught. And and again, when I got sick, when I thought that it was all over, it changed my mindset of, fitness is not about killing yourself. It's not about dreading your workout. It's about living the most amount of years on this planet, feeling good, being healthy, being happy and laughing and mindset, and not leaving a class with your eyeballs bleeding. like, and not hurting yourself because you're trying to throw 800 pounds over your head for no reason, unless you're a lumberjack. I don't know. So being the fact that, I've only been like 6 years full time into like, and then realizing this is about chronic disease and raising awareness about people working with chronic disease and preventing of symptoms and pain, to be recognized not as someone who is a step toucher and a grapeviner, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm the like the last of the dinosaurs, where if you're like, hey Christine, I need you to cover an 80s themed aerobics class, like legit aerobics, step touch, grapevine, chasse, like I could do it like right now. But not that person. Headband. But to be recognized, the fact that the fitness industry is now seeing the importance of disease prevention with, the number of arthritis and obesity and chronic illnesses, seeing that that's important and recognizing that makes my heart so happy. And it just gives me that bigger platform to say, we've got to take this seriously, and and get out there and say, don't be afraid, get yourself educated. It was an amazing moment, and I'm just super grateful. And I still look back and I'm like, how did I elbow my way up here? Like, but I'm a New Yorker originally, so that's what happens. But I have to say, Linda, though, that one of the best things ever was that I just talk to people. I love people. And the amount of people in the last 25 years that you just sit down, and have a water, have a glass of wine with, and just, how are you? Oh, do you have kids? Where are you from? What's going on? Have been the most powerful connections and the most authentic relationships that I've made. And some of those people have just put their hand out to me for so many years and lifted me up to the fact that, I was able to be in this bigger spotlight, this worldwide spotlight.
And I really love that so much, because you followed your heart to where you are now, and you were serving others, and you were stepping into your gifts and your purpose. And I think that you went a lot farther than you would have if you would have been in your miserable existence that you had before. And I just really believe that that's true for everyone, really, is if you're in a miserable existence, that isn't what's for you, and your heart is your compass.
It's so true. Yeah. The last year teaching, I felt like there were, teaching, lecturing, I'm supposed to be fulfilled. And I loved my students, and they were always older, so it was really fun. But I felt like those four walls were suffocating. And I knew, for some reason, I knew in here that there was something greater. I didn't know what it was. And that's the fear. That's what holds people back. That's what's so scary. The nights that you're like, what did I just do? But having that persistence, having that consistency, the determination, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I think this is the right thing. There's many days like that, even today, where I'm like, but you know that, is what I'm doing leading me towards my goal? And if my goal is to reach more people and help more people with chronic diseases, and I can say yes when I lay my head down on that pillow, then you know what? I did my job for today.
And I love that so much. And I could so relate to I just knew what my mission was, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, I know everything about fitness, but I know nothing about owning a business or being a business owner or any of that. And it was just all about my mission. And so I love what you said about just leaping in and figuring it out as you go. Today has been so good. Make sure you guys tune in to Christine's podcast, Two Fit Crazies and a Microphone. Also get her book, Split Second Courage. Today, I just want to say you were so funny. I love your sense of humor. That's one of my favorite things about you. you're so raw, real, and honest and relatable. And I admire you so much for what you went through and what you made out of it and how you're helping others.
Oh, touche. You're amazing. This is what it's about. We get the words out, right? Your podcast, spread the word, and we're helping people live, more healthy and happier lives. That's what this is about, right? You are just amazing, Linda, and I'm so grateful that we connected. And by the way, everybody, this spring, Linda will be on my podcast, so we get to switch roles a little bit. So be on the lookout for that too.
Oh, yeah. I'm very excited to be on your show. Tell everybody where they can reach you on social media and where they can get your book.
Oh, super easy. Book, Split Second Courage, Christine Conti, Amazon. Easiest way to do it. And if you need any information, my website, Conti, like my last name, CONTI fit, FIT.com. ContiFit.com. I'm on all the things. I'm very Googleable. That's what I've been told, but it's the Christine Conti on Instagram. And my Instagram actually was hacked like months ago. So it's like we're starting over, baby. No problem. All good. Yeah, Facebook, all the things. The what is it? The International Women's Group is rtwtribe.com. And then twofitcrazies.com is the just you could find the podcast obviously anywhere you podcast, but all the episodes are on that website too. But thank you so much.
You are so welcome. And we're also going to put in the show notes how you can get into Christine's chronic disease wellness coaching program if you're interested. So make sure to look for the show notes. And as always, you guys, keep on keeping on, everybody. Bye, everyone.